All right. Many of you are not going to like this video. I'm sorry. All right. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Chris Vincelli. And today, as the title of this video suggests, I'm going to be speaking to you guys about living in Canada. And more specifically, why living in Canada sucks. Now, full disclosure, I am Canadian. I don't live in Canada anymore, but I was born and raised there. I spent the first 25 years of my life there. And even though I now live in the beautiful state of Florida in the United States, I still remember vividly how life was like growing up in Canada and spending all my childhood and much of my adult life up there. So I'm going to be speaking to you guys about why living in Canada sucks. And I can tell you that I'm speaking from experience. Now, look, I'm not saying that Canada's a bad country. In fact, I think Canada is a great country. It's one of the best countries in the world, to be honest. It's a very safe country. It's a rich and prosperous country. I just feel that living there sucks. That's all I'm saying. It's not the greatest place to live. In fact, I could think of a couple other countries I'd rather live in. So let me dive right into it and explain the 5 reasons why living in Canada sucks. But first, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like my content if you want to see additional content like this. All right, so listen, let's dive right into it. Let's jump into the most obvious reason why living in Canada sucks. And reason number 1 is undoubtedly the weather. And when I'm talking about the weather, I'm not just referring to winter, although I'll start off with winter. Winters in Canada are very long, very cold, and for the most part, very snowy. Unless, of course, you live in Vancouver, where it's really rainy, okay? Regardless of where you live, you're either going to see a lot of snow, a lot of cold, and you are most definitely going to see very little sunlight. This goes for the entirety of the country. Canada does not see much sunlight in the winter because it's located at a very northerly latitude. Regardless of where you live in Canada, whether it be the East Coast or the West Coast in the middle, it's going to be cold and snowy and dark all winter long, okay? You can't escape it. And like I said, with the exception of Vancouver, which sees a lot of rain, pretty much all of Canada sees a lot of snow and a lot of cold. It's really bad, guys. The worst part about winter is not even the fact that it's snowy or cold or even really dark for most of the day. It's the fact that winter lasts so long, okay? For pretty much the entire country, winter starts sometime in late October or November and can last until the end of April. In fact, I've even seen snow in the month of May, okay? So that's a lot of winter. That's just about 6 months of winter. That is a long time to be dealing with shoveling snow, cracked skin, all right? Icicles forming on your eyelashes and on your eyebrows, putting on boots and snow pants and coats and scarves every time you go outside. That's a lot of bad weather to be dealing with 6 months out of the year. And really ugly attire. Lots of winter clothing, okay? You can still look stylish in winter clothing, but man, it's bothersome. Putting on those boots, that jacket, that scarf, maybe even that hat every single day, every time you have to go outside, and then just preparing for what's next, preparing for the snowbanks, for the icy sidewalks, those treacherous roads every time you go out. It's a lot, and it gets tiresome. And to be honest, I think it sucks. Just think about it. Most people on this planet, whenever they want to go outside, they put on their shoes, pants, shirt, maybe some sunglasses, and they just walk outside their door. They walk outside and they go about their daily lives, enjoying what they're going to do. That's not the case for Canadians from October, November till April, and even some parts of May. They got to get ready. It's a whole process. It could take 10, 15, even 20 minutes just to get ready to go outside. And then when you do go outside, like I said, you might have a mountain of snow in your driveway that you need to shovel. You need to get your ice scraper and scrape the ice off your car before you can get into it and start driving. It's nuts. It's not for me. I think it sucks. If you think differently, please share your thoughts in the comment section below. I would love to hear it. But I'm telling you, no thank you. That is not for me. And I think a large part of why living in Canada sucks is because of its long winter. And then again, once spring rolls around, it's not that nice. It's not that long either. Springtime is usually pretty rainy, and it might last about a month or two before you hit full-fledged summer. In fact, I think spring lasts about a month up in Canada. You'd see spring show up sometime in May and end somewhere in mid to late June. So that's a month, maybe slightly more than a month of spring before you start to hit summer. And then summer. I mean, summers in Canada are very nice. I gotta admit, they're very comfortable, low humidity, quite a bit of sunlight, sunshine. So Canadian summers are very nice. They're just really short, okay? They start, I would have to say, the end of June. That's really when summer starts, mid to end of June. You have July, you have August, but even by Labor Day weekend, late August, early September, the temperatures start to change and you start to see the beginning of fall. And fall, much like spring, brings a lot of rain and a lot of gray skies. So look, the weather is depressing up in Canada. Okay, I think you got the idea as to why the weather sucks in Canada and how that contributes really negatively to the overall living experience in Canada. But let me go over another reason why living in Canada sucks, and that is the Canadian dollar. The Canadian dollar, relatively speaking, is worthless. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means in relation to currencies like the US dollar, the euro, and the British pound, it really isn't worth much. So whenever you have to travel overseas, if you want to travel to the United States or go to Europe or some other countries around the world, chances are, whenever you do travel, that travel ends up being very expensive. Right now, the Canadian dollar, we're April of 2020, and the Canadian dollar is at 71 cents US. And it's even lower when compared to the pound and compared to the euro. So whenever you do travel internationally, particularly to these countries, you're going to end up spending a lot more money during your travels in order to convert your currency, which makes traveling pretty difficult for the typical Canadian, especially in relation to their friends in the United States or their friends in Europe and in the UK. So the Canadian dollar definitely sucks. Now, currencies fluctuate. I know that. In fact, in the not too distant past, up until 2014, 2015, the Canadian dollar was pretty much at par with the United States. So look, the fact that Canadian dollar is not worth much now, that might not be the case in the future. But for the most part, for pretty much my entire life, the Canadian dollar was not worth much. I remember even growing up as a kid, every time we vacation somewhere, that Canadian dollar was a limiting factor. So it definitely makes international travel quite difficult, especially when the Canadian dollar is worth so little. Which brings me to my next point. Point number 3. Canada doesn't have many vacation destinations within it, which especially sucks if it's hard to travel internationally because of your worthless currency. Canada does not have many vacation destinations within it. Let's be honest. You do have some ski resorts in the western part of Canada, Whistler Ski Resort, Banff, Lake Louise, and the Canadian Rockies. And I guess Montreal can be considered a bit of a bachelor party destination. But aside from that, there's no preeminent world-class resort or vacation destinations like you might have in Europe and the United States. There is no Miami, there is no Hawaii, there's not even a Las Vegas or a Nashville, places that are meccas for international and domestic tourists alike. So this means that you have to travel internationally if you want to go somewhere. Like I said, unless you're a really big fan of skiing or intend on planning for multiple bachelor parties, there aren't many vacation destinations in Canada. And that, coupled with the low Canadian dollar and the difficulty it comes with, means that Canadians just don't have many options when it comes to traveling within their country. They're forced to travel internationally, which is tough because of the low Canadian dollar. Okay, the fourth reason why living in Canada sucks, the hockey. Okay, I love hockey. Hockey is an amazing sport, and hockey is huge in Canada. You have hockey at the top, miles of nothing, and then you have like soccer and baseball, basketball and football, and some other random sports. Okay, hockey is everything in Canada. It is huge. It is as big as you think it is. So why does that suck? Well, it sucks when your hockey teams haven't won a National Hockey League championship in over 27 years. Okay? There are 7 hockey teams. It's been like that for a while. Sometimes there were 6, sometimes there were 8. But they haven't won a single Stanley Cup National Hockey League championship in over 27 years. Okay? We're approaching 3 decades of no Canadian teams winning the Stanley Cup. Like this really sucks. It's a country that loves its hockey, yet doesn't have a winning hockey team. They've come close. Okay, they've come close in the past, but the American teams keep winning. And I think that has to do in part with the complacent mentality a lot of Canadians have. I feel Canadians are very comfortable with what they have. They're very comfortable with their hockey teams. In fact, some cities might just be thankful they even have a hockey team. But I have noticed that a lot of organizations, including hockey teams in Canada, lack that killer instinct that make them want to win and win championships. It's a trait I see very often here in the United States. I think a lot of teams here in the United States, whether it be for hockey or basketball, football, or whatever, really have a winner's mentality. I don't see that very much reflected in the organizations in Canada, particularly when it comes to their hockey teams, their National Hockey League teams, which is unfortunate because hockey is the winter national sport of Canada. You would want to see more teams winning in Canada's national sport. Anyways, as a hockey fan, it matters to me, but I live in the United States now, so I could just probably cheer for an American team. Okay, and the fifth and last reason why I think living in Canada sucks is its people. But before I get into that, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so that you can be notified every time I come out with other great content. I know there's this weird stereotype where Canadians are supposedly nice or friendly. We're not. I think we tend to be pretty rude and antisocial, to be honest. And maybe that's just because of the weather. Maybe the weather gets people down. It keeps us indoors, which by extension makes us a little bit more antisocial and a little bit less outgoing. That might be the case. I have to say the weather probably does play a factor in how they are around people. Sure, Canadians might be polite. Canadians might even be diplomatic, but I don't think that means they're nice. Just because you have manners, that does not make you a nice person or a genuine or a good person. I appreciate good-hearted people, authentic people, and I don't see a lot of that in many Canadians. I see many Canadians being relatively self-centered and quite rude to those outside of their inner circle, to be honest. So those are my 2 cents. Those are the reasons why I think living in Canada sucks. Like I said, I spent 25 years of my life there, my first 25 years. So I know what I'm talking about. I speak from experience. But with that being said, I'd love to hear what you think. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get some pretty strong opinions from y'all. So, question of the day. What do you think of these points I brought up? Are you Canadian? Do you currently live in Canada? Or have you thought of living in Canada? What are your thoughts? What have you heard? What have your experiences been, either by living in Canada or by traveling throughout Canada? I would love to hear your thoughts. Please write them down in the comments section below. I would love to hear it. And to be honest, it also helps me understand what type of content I should keep putting out there. Thanks, everyone. Looking forward to hearing from you.